Hello and welcome to my second YouTube video. My name is Sarah Wheeler, also known as SaltBitch34 on TikTok and now on YouTube. Surprised to see that my Bethany video has kind of taken off. Ever since I posted it like 3 months ago, I kind of just forgot about the whole project, and then I looked at my YouTube like a week ago and I was like, wait, last time I checked it had 200 views, now I almost have 5,000. So thank you to everyone who watched it and who enjoyed it. This is going to be a similar video because this is going to be a deep dive into Danielle Staub / Beverly Merrill / Angela Minnelli. So get comfortable because, as you probably know, this is going to be a longer video as all of my content is. And make sure you subscribe. Follow me here, follow me on TikTok, and I also have a podcast called Spilt Milk. It's on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Let's start setting the scene of Beverly Merrill / Angela Minnelli / Danielle Staub. So her real name, her birth name, I guess you could say, is Beverly Merrill. She was born on July 29th, 1962, and she is definitely a Leo. So she's also adopted, and she's gathered and kind of fermented some information about who she believes her birth mom was or is. She's told us that she believes her birth mom was 15 years old when she gave birth and that she was of Sicilian heritage, or as she likes to call it, ethnicity. Okay, so Danielle's memoir is called The Naked Truth, the real story behind Danielle Staub. And she spills a lot of tea. It's kind of, she takes a lot of interesting creative decisions in this memoir, and I read snippets of it and it was really fascinating, and I would definitely recommend reading it if you can find it. But she claims that her mom is from a very wealthy Sicilian family and that she was impregnated from a man from a rival family. And I just love the lore that she has created for herself just immediately. She said that the grandparents were so upset by this invalid pregnancy that they sent the mother to America to give birth and give the baby up for adoption. And that's why Danielle claimed in the memoir that she apparently knows Italian recipes without any knowledge. Like, she claimed in her book that she just knows how to make like marinara sauce, for example, just because like no one's ever taught her that in her entire life because her adopted parents didn't cook that, right? She just knew from her own innate senses how to make it because of her ethnicity, her Sicilian ethnicity heritage. And I just think that's so moving. But she also said that her father was killed for getting her mother pregnant with her, apparently. Which is kind of a common vendetta for powerful Italian families to do when there's like children out of wedlock, like back in like the day, I think. I don't know if I'm just making that up, but I love the lore. I'm immediately captivated. So apparently she was 5 years old whenever she found out that she was adopted. And apparently she kind of just gathered it herself. She decided she was going to sit her parents down. This is what she said in her memoir, The Naked Truth. She said she sat her parents down and she was like, look, I don't look like y'all. I don't act like you guys. And her parents were apparently like really conservative, like modest. They sound like Midwestern Catholic type of people, and then they were also really, really poor. I just love the idea of Danielle sitting them down and being like 5 years old and being like, hey, you know, I don't look like you. Yous don't act like me's. I'd like Danielle's someone to me who has just always been old. But maybe that's just her storyline and her upbringing, you know? So she said that her adopted mother was a God-fearing woman. Her father regularly mistreated her mother also, and Danielle as a child. And this is where Danielle says her fighter instincts kind of come from. So she had to learn to fight back. She said that she had to learn at a young age that nobody can protect you except for yourself, which is sad. She claims that, like, there's a lot of other things that happened in her upbringing, and she talks about in her memoir and on other platforms, but she claims that it's all too dark to share on Housewives of New Jersey, and frankly, some of it is too dark for me to talk about on YouTube. If you can get at what I'm hinting at, you could look more into it if you're interested. And I also found her yearbook photo from 1977 because I'm getting really, really good at stalking, and I found her on Ancestry.com, and she was kind of a band nerd, apparently. This is an interesting twist because just a few years later, she was living a very different life down in Miami. So obviously, Danielle did not have a very good home life, and she wanted to get out of it as soon as possible. So as soon as she graduated high school, she moved with her boyfriend at the time down to Miami. And that's when she started working as an escort, and she was working under the name of Angela Minnelli. Had a little Jersey rasp come in when I said that. So this is now a transition from Beverly Merrill to Angela Minnelli, okay? And when she was working as a stripper, or an escort, I should say, she met this guy, Daniel Aguilar. So that's important to remember. I'm going to call her Angela for this section of the video because I don't want you getting him confused with Daniel, because that is the co-defendant in her massive kidnapping and extortion case. So Angela is working as a stripper / escort, and she meets this guy named Carmen who lives in the same apartment complex as her. And Carmen goes up to Angela and he's like, hey, I want to buy some pasta. And Angela's like, I know a guy, this guy named Daniel, sells pasta, okay? And Daniel Aguilar is the co-defendant in the major extortion case. So Daniel is a former detective for the Florida State Police turned Colombian cartel pasta dealer, alrighty? He's friends with Angela. I guess, you know, they're customers of each other's, you know what I mean? And Angela connects Daniel to Carmen so they can trade off. Daniel agreed to sell the pasta to Carmen for $25,000. But when it came time for the deal to go down, 4 armed men barged into the room where Beverly, Carmen, and Daniel were sitting and held them at gunpoint and took the pasta and the money. And so now Carmen and Daniel were both out of luck. And so Daniel freaks out and he kind of makes this into Carmen's problem because now he's indebted to the cartel and he's out $25,000. His solution is to kidnap Carmen and hold him for ransom. That's his solution. Daniel later tried to say that it was all Carmen's idea to be kidnapped. He wanted to be kidnapped because he said, like, my daddy has money or whatever. Because a little bit about Carmen is that he's, like, from Utica, like, upstate New York, and allegedly his family had ties to, like, the mafia, Falcone family. I don't know how to say it. I don't know if I believe that part, but I believe it if his family had money and stuff like that. Eventually, Carmen calls his father named Tommy, and he's like, yo, I'm being held for ransom. Can you please wire them $25,000? Like, they're literally pistol whipping me, holding me, blah, 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 blah. His father confirmed that there was a woman on the phone during these phone calls, so that woman was definitely Angela. And I don't think I have to say allegedly because this is all it's already gone through trial and they were convicted. So Carmen's dad, Tommy, initiates the wire transfer of $25,000, and Daniel and Carmen are going to go to the bank or whatever, and they're stopped by the Florida State Police. Carmen, because he's being held for kidnapped, I think he snitched on them to the police. One of the guys who was also in the car with him had a gun and he wasn't supposed to, so Daniel and the other people in the car were all arrested. And then at the same time as this was happening, Angela / Danielle Staub was at their house kicking it at the crib, and a SWAT team raided the whole area, and they found 6 kilograms of pasta and approximately $16,000 in cash. Not a lot of cash, not gonna lie. Not that much. For an escort and a pasta person, I would expect a little bit more cash. But nevertheless, all 3 of them were charged with 7 counts of threatening to injure somebody to extort them for money, and they were only charged with 1 count of intent to distribute a controlled substance. Okay, random tidbits that I picked up whenever I was researching about this is apparently after Beverly was released from jail, Angela, she was released from jail, Daniel started harassing her. Some woman who claimed to be his mom was like threatening her. Her apartment was broken into twice. She went out to go walk her dog one time, and then when she got home, somebody called her and was like, wow, you're really brave to be out like walking your dog. And it's like, that's what you do. You hang around shit, you start to stink. Hang around shady people, like, my God. So the reason why Beverly, Angela, whatever you wanted me to call her, I don't know what to call her, Angela was released from prison is because she agreed to take a plea deal, right? And this has something to do with her ex-husband, ex-fling, Kevin Mayer. Now, Kevin Mayer was an FBI informant. He was helping them with like drug trafficking, but I think he just kind of like got caught up in the swift of things and like the wild Miami life, because he met Danielle at a club at like a wild Miami party when she had just been released from prison. And even though he was married, he apparently proceeded to have sex with Danielle like that night, and they started a relationship immediately. And then he ended up being able to allegedly work with the police to arrange a plea deal and shorten her sentencing. That did not come without a cost, because I honestly think Kevin Mayer is a little insane. He has some valid points about Beverly. Like, nobody in this equation is insane, but Kevin still makes YouTube videos about Danielle. I still make YouTube videos about Danielle, but like, like to this day, like hella videos about her. You have to find it on YouTube, but it's a little deranged for like an ex-husband to be doing. Like, if that was my ex-husband, like restraining order immediately. So with Danielle's plea deal, she only had to serve 5 years of probation. Like, she didn't have to go to prison and serve time at all, which is pretty nice. But she did have to do a drug treatment program, 6 months of urine testing, and the only place that she was ordered to visit or allowed to visit was Western Pennsylvania to visit her adoptive parents. Kevin Mayer, apparently he was undercover, I just looked it up, he arranged for her probation to take place in New York so that way they could officially move in together and start their relationship together. So he literally left his wife while undercover to be with Danielle. Like, it's really strange, but I don't understand. And then her co-defendant, Daniel, did not take a plea deal, and he ended up having to serve 15 years in prison. Now we're on to Danielle's era. So now she is post-probation. She's kind of trying to start a new life somewhat, but she's still working as a stripper at the Karlstadt strip club in New Jersey. She's officially starting her roots, grounding her roots in Jersey town, which honestly, it's shocking to me that it took her this long to get here, because this is like late 90s or mid 90s, I think, at this point. Actually, I think it was early 90s. She's a little bit old, I'm not gonna lie. And this was apparently where she met her ex-husband, Thomas Staub, was when she was working at the strip club. He was a regular attendant there and took a special liking to Danielle and her talents, you could say, suggest and engage. He loved it. And she claimed that Tommy sold her on a lifestyle of financial stability, freedom, and normalcy. And when you think of this video so far, those are not things that Danielle has really seemed to know. Like, that's not been her life. Like, I kind of breezed through her early life. That's because there really wasn't much to find. She seemed like it wasn't a good time for her, you know. She didn't feel like she belonged in her house growing up, and then she just went to really sketchy areas and lifestyles right after that. So I think this really did appeal to her, was the idea of being like a housewife, just because it's what it sounds like you should aspire to be. But when you know Danielle, she's not capable of maintaining a life that's like normal. Like, she needs something like way more dynamic than that, and like a little bit of chaos at all times. But nevertheless, she ended up going in to marry Thomas Staub, and they had 2 children together. They had Christine in 1993, so literally she's 31 years old now, which is crazy to think about. And then Jilly Jill in 1998. Their marriage lasted from 1993 to 2007, although I believe they separated quite a bit before they officially finalized their divorce, because I'm shocked that their marriage lasted that long. That's a long time. But he wanted her to be like a trophy wife, and like I said, it appealed to her at the beginning. She was like running around. Apparently she said she was hanging out with Kelly Ripa. Maybe, we'll see. But it was too mundane for her. So the trophy wife thing, she didn't like it. She thought it was like kind of degrading. And it was also just such a transition from her 10 years living in the Miami Vice nightlife to now being around like Franklin Lakes, Caroline Manzos of the world. Like, what the fuck? Also, sorry, this is kind of random, but before Danielle got onto the show, Kevin Mayer sued her for defamation of character for $5 million, which I think is really interesting. And a day before she was supposed to go into her deposition for this lawsuit, they settled it in court. So I don't know what that was all about. It kind of just seemed like a scare tactic, because she was on the way of like she was hinting at releasing a memoir, and I think that scared him, because he was an undercover cop and doing shady things, it sounds like. But I don't know. Allegedly. Who knows? So in June of 2010, post-divorce from Tommy, is when she starred in The Housewives of New Jersey. Now, this is when she is debuting her lifestyle in Wayne, New Jersey, and it's a little bleak because she's immediately listing her home. Like, it's all of like the fallout of her divorce is basically what we're seeing, and especially in season 1, because she has this extremely dated home that doesn't look like it's been updated or maintained throughout the entirety of their marriage, frankly. And it's like her responsibility to financially repair it and make it good to sell. And you just know she doesn't have the money to do that. Like, those are expensive repairs. And she says that she doesn't want to spend any money on the house because part of the agreement of their divorce was that her ex-husband was going to take all the profit from the sale of their home. But I'm like, how does that make any sense? How are you the one that's financially responsible with upkeep and making the house ready to sell, but yet you don't get any share of the profit of the sale? Like, I don't think I worded that right, but what the fuck? That doesn't make any sense. Like, fight for that. Where's your lawyer? Where's your lawyer, Danielle? Come on now. Don't let these men do that to you. Season 1 of New Jersey, we meet Danielle, and she's just kind of in like a need to repair state. She's taking care of this wretched house. She's left with hella bills, but nevertheless, she's still strutting in her metallic bikinis, suggesting and engaging constantly. So it's honestly really inspiring. She's very defiant, resilient, and defiant. But we just see her, and it's some desperate times. I think it was like the first or second episode where she was like talking to some guy that she had never met in real life. She had only talked to him on the phone. But they had like sent pictures to each other. She had sent photos of herself. She's like a 40-year-old woman with kids doing this to some guy she's never even met in person. And then they go on a date. She goes to meet him on a date with cameras there. He stood her up. He doesn't even show up. So he just walks away with the photos. It's like, girl. It's honestly really sad to see. Because then we also see her with that disgusting 22-year-old man. I think his name was Steve. Truly, he sent a chill down my spine anytime he came on the screen. Like, I actually want to barf anytime I think about him. Because if you don't remember what he did, basically it was like revenge, you know what, situation. I gotta be careful on YouTube. I've learned my ways now. I got you. It was like, Danielle, like, again, he's half of your age. How have you been through so much and still know so little? You know so little. So sad. It was really sad. Because really the only guy who seemed to have her back was Danny Provenzano, her prison friend, which randomly enough, I have done a deep dive on Danny Provenzano. I did it on my TikTok. It's kind of a while back, but I have like a whole playlist of my Bravo deep dives on my TikTok, so make sure to go look at that one. If you don't know about Danny Pro, then I don't know why you're here. Like, what the fuck? They said they met, like, I think they were just associated in like fellow prison situations, fellow social circles and social stratas. So basically her like storyline on season 1 had to do with like dating and like her divorce and the house fallout, but then also like the other woman kind of uncovering her past and realizing like, who is this person that we've been hanging out with? Like, what? I did not realize that. And that's what leads to prostitution, whore, table flipping as we know it. And that's only season 1. That's season 1 of New Jersey. Like, she managed to get all of the other women against her very quickly because she actually came on the show, I believe, as Teresa's friend. And Teresa ended up being the one to flip the table on her, as we all know. But Caroline was the real one who had it out for Danielle. And I think they just had it out for each other. She did not like the Loretta Manzo clan. And I can't really say I blame her, especially when it comes to Ashley, because Ashley's a fucking bitch. If you guys remember, Ashley with 2 E's. Okay, there was like, I'm kind of skipping around a little bit, but now we're fast forward to season 2, and they're beefing on Facebook. Ashley is beefing on Facebook with Danielle. She's like defending her mom, right? Because Danielle and Jacqueline are beefing. So Ashley takes to Facebook to be like, Danielle Staub's a stupid whore, and like saying really like cyberbullying Danielle. Mind you, Ashley's like 17. And it all kind of boils down to this country club posh fashion show moment, which it all comes down to the posh fashion show in New Jersey, just so you know. Teresa was confronting Danielle about something, and Danielle was exiting the scene. As she's leaving the country club, Ashley yanks her hair, fully pulls a chunk out of her hair. Danielle falls to her knees, immobile. Fully immobile. Sinking. She makes Kim G, you know she always makes Kim G do shit for her. She made Kim G's driver pick her up and carry her there because she couldn't walk. Because she was so shooken up by the whole escapade. It's hilarious. I watch the scene at least once every 6 months. It's like a biannual excursion retreat for me mentally. But Ashley was fucking wild for that because Danielle ended up pressing charges against Ashley. Apparently she was 18 years old. And never forget when she showed up to court looking like a busted up Sex in the City. And Ashley ended up being fined $189 for the whole ordeal. There was another moment in New Jersey. Like, this is part of the reason why I don't understand her memoir, because I vividly remember in season 2 of New Jersey, her executing this whole search for her birth mom. Having Kim G hire a PI to like set up like an investigation on her birth mom, and the only information she claimed to have was her ethnicity. So I'm like, how come in your memoir you've got all this tea? You have this whole lore, this whole folklore backstory set up to set the scene of Danielle Staub. And I buy it, like I believe it, just because like it does make sense, but it's confirmation bias at this point, and I feel like that's what she's just feeding herself to, which is hilarious. Something that's interesting also that she said in her memoir was that her birth mom ended up staying in America after giving Danielle up for adoption, and later on she ended up having like 5 other children, because if you don't remember, she was 15 at the time, so later on in life she had several other kids. And Danielle says although she knows she has siblings, she doesn't want to infiltrate their family because she's 50 years old and she's an illegitimate child, is what she said, which I think is really sad. But like, my God, if you think you're Danielle Staub's sibling, like speak up, reach out, let me know. They could be around us. Who knows? Like, who knows? We can cast them on New Jersey because they're younger. So throughout season 2 of New Jersey, the only people Danielle could really film with were Kim G, Danny Provenzano, and her children. None of the other main cast members would be even in the same room as her. Literally, like, all of her scenes were just with her kids and with Danny Pro. So it kind of got hard to film with her and like structure a storyline around her. It's just like we were just watching her overshare with her kids. That's basically all that she would do. So she overshares a lot with her kids on the show. Like, that's the only people that she's really filming with. Like, just giving them all the drama with the other women and like asking them for advice, and they're like, Mom, I don't know and I don't care. Don't invite them to my 12th birthday. Like, I don't want Caroline Manzo at my 12th birthday. And she's like, it doesn't matter. Like, you're gonna invite Caroline. Like, that's ridiculous. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Don't invite Caroline at my 12th birthday. That's ridiculous. There was one party that Christine had, I believe, and this was the only time that we saw her ex-husband Tommy on the show. And Tommy showed up with his current fiance or current wife, and Danielle decides to use that time to wear her old engagement ring that she had with Tommy. She decides to wear it to the event to show his new wife and to show cameras and to show him, because like I guess they don't see each other, right? I don't think he has like custody of them or whatever. Like, it was so uncomfortable and cringy to watch. And it was just another moment of her making it about her. Like, her kids were like, please don't do that. Like, please don't do that. And she's like, I'm doing it. And we're inviting Caroline. I'm wearing my old engagement ring and we're inviting my enemies. It's your birthday, I know, but it's how it has to be. It's the only place we can film. We're gonna do it all for charity, so that way we can get it all as a tax write-off. Because immediately after she was fired from New Jersey in 2012, this is sad, but she had to file for bankruptcy, right? Because like, what is Danielle gonna do? Like, what job is she gonna possess? What hard skills does she have that she can put in a resume format? You know, the only job she's had is stripping and being on Real Housewives of New Jersey. It's kind of crazy. So in 2014, her home was shortlisted. And then in 2016, her daughter Christine gave an interview. Sorry, I talk with my hands a lot. I'll try to do that less. In 2016, her daughter Christine gave an interview to Vice about what it's like to be Danielle Staub's daughter, and it's really interesting. I definitely recommend reading it. And basically she said that boys at her school would like pick on her and make like the worst your mom jokes. Like, I can't even imagine that. It sounds like an absolute nightmare. She said that after she was off the show, like, they fell on really hard times financially. Obviously she had to file for bankruptcy, and she said that they just packed up and basically left New Jersey overnight. We're like moving places and living in hotels in random people's homes like month to month, and like slept on blow up mattresses. I'm like, oh my God, why was nobody checking on that? We had no idea. It was right under our noses. Because what the hell? Because she gave that interview in 2016, and then in 2017, Danielle's back on Real Housewives of New Jersey. So like, I just don't think this woman has ever known stability. I don't think she ever has, which is really sad, because at this point, she's also already engaged to this fucking guy named Marty. And Marty and them had like a really quick turnaround. I think they were married in May and then divorced by August. So by the time their wedding had aired on season 9 of New Jersey, they were already divorced, signed, sealed, delivered, done. So, and Marty was apparently the one who filed, and they had to both be granted restraining orders against each other. I guess their relationship started prior to her being on the show, right? And then she accepted this friend of role, and then they start filming as they're married, and then he's like, this brings out the worst side of her, I hate it, and it like didn't turn off once cameras stopped rolling. And so that was the main reason why they got divorced. Like, he literally blamed the whole thing on Housewives. And she ended up pressing DV charges against Marty, which were later dismissed, and got wrapped up in a whole other divorced house dilemma, because Marty owned this $2 million home that they lived in together, but Marty was the owner of it, right? And if Danielle wanted to keep the home as part of the divorce, she had to buy it from him for $2.15 million, or she had to completely vacate it. And obviously, like, she doesn't have that money, like, duh. So she didn't buy it, but she also didn't vacate it. So when Marty went on to try to sell the house, every time he could, she would like do different things to allegedly do different things to like block the showings and the sales and blah, 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 blah. He finally sold the house for $2.2 million, and he told her, like, hey, they're moving in July. If you're not out of here by June, this is of 2020, then you're gonna have to be evicted by a sheriff. So she got out, and she tried telling courts that she'd be homeless if she lost the house, but they didn't really care because she was employed by Housewives at the time. Danielle was like also a horrible bridezilla at her wedding to Marty, and this is also kind of when she started being really nasty to Marge Joseph, and kind of what led her to being kicked off the show, because she just literally didn't get along with anybody. She was supposed to come back, I believe, as Teresa's friend, which was a shock to us all. That was bone rattling in itself. But then she was like insulting Marge, which is kind of valid, making fun of her marriage, you know what I mean? But that didn't work out, obviously, and then it was just like tit for tat, and it ended up in another physical altercation, which Danielle pulled Marge's hair and threw a bunch of water on her. So Danielle was kicked off the show. She was fired. Just wasn't working, frankly. So obviously we all know that she was engaged like 19 to 26 times. I've read different numbers, and I tried my best to find as many of these men that I could, but I could not find all of them. I'm not gonna lie. I couldn't find most of them, besides the ones that we already know. So obviously Tommy, there's Kevin Mayer, Cop Without a Badge. Then there was this guy who was a DJ and WKTU named DJ Goomba Johnny. They were engaged for some time, and then most recently she was engaged to some guy named Oliver, and she got engaged to Oliver 1 week after her divorce from Marty was finalized. She's very Danielle of her. Good for her. Also, a little bit of a tribute, since it's Pride Month, to her lesbian era, because she did have a little bit of a moment with lesbian superstar Lori Michaels, and they did co-write and co-sing a song together. Oh, it's called Real Close. And they sang it real close to each other on Watch What Happens Live, and it is so iconic. I have the video on my TikTok, but you can also probably find it here on YouTube somewhere. And apparently they met at this guy named Noel Ashman's birthday party. I think he's like a socialite. And according to page 6, you know who was also at this birthday party where Danielle and lesbian superstar Lori Michaels met? Bo Dietl. Bo motherfucking Dietl was at the party where Lori Michaels and Danielle Staub met, according to page 6. Like, Jersey lore continues to build. It's never ending. It's never ending. And that's kind of where I'm gonna end the deep dive of Danielle, because at this point I feel like she's just kind of living gig to gig. Like, she's just making it work, trying to maintain her relevancy. Like, I see her name in headlines on just like the stupidest things all the time. Like, it's giving Bethany, the way she comments on like other reality stars gimmicks, and it's like, all right, you're one to talk. Which, coming from Angela / Beverly / Danielle. Most recently, I believe she was on House of Villains. In my opinion, she appeared really desperate and just strange on the show. Like, it made me honestly cringe seeing her on the House of Villains platform. I wouldn't wish that upon anybody. I can't believe she's out here doing that alongside like that stupid guy from Love is Blind. Like, Danielle, you don't, like, you're nearing 60 years old and you're on like House of Villains. It's daunting. It's honestly, it's scary to know what it could possibly be. You know, it's always a good reminder. So that's kind of my whole deep dive on Danielle / Beverly / Angela. Let me know what you guys think about all of this. I've always loved watching Danielle on my screen, with the exception of House of Villains, you know, but I love watching her on like a Bravo show. Let me know what housewife you guys want me to do a deep dive on next, and make sure you follow me here and on TikTok. Okay, that's it. Goodbye.